I do not want to comment.
Je me suis donné toutes les réponses dont j'avais besoin.
C'est la Fashion Week?
Ils se mettent sur le trottoir, les fashion.
What are those? Dior clothes.
It's fashion art. Dude. Fashion is hard work, gritty, it's not glamorous.
Okay, you know, now, les dés sont jetés. It means like, what can happen, you know?
That's all.
Hello, Julius. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for taking the time. I know it's like full Fashion Week mode. You just had this amazing show. We will talk about it later, I'm sure. So really appreciate that you could come. Usually you're a duo with your brother. We'll talk about this too. But yeah, thanks again. So usually with our podcast, like I was telling you a little bit before we started recording, we like to know your background. How did it start, your life? Where were you born? And how was school? Basically, what type of, student you were? Like the bad kid, the good student, whatever? Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want me to go like all the way back?
High school. No, first, where were you born?
I'm born in Copenhagen, Denmark.
Yeah.
So I grew up there. In kind of like the city center, but in, like a house.
Okay.
My dad is a professor and my mom's a nurse, and we're 5 kids in the family.
Wow.
So big family.
How many sons, how many daughters?
We're 4 guys and 1 girl. So she's hard. She's very, very tough. Yeah. I mean, She plays basketball on like a high league level and like everything.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah. So,
okay.
But yeah, so we grew up there, and when we grew up, we were traveling a lot. I lived in the U.S. for a year and a half when my dad, he went to college there, and we lived there, and then we traveled around the world a lot.
He went to college to teach?
He went, to get his PhD.
Okay.
He has a professor grad in something that I don't know.
Like a doctorate or something?
Yeah, something like that, yeah, at Stanford.
Wow, okay,
yeah.
So you must have been like a good student. Like I don't seem like letting you be like this wild kid at school, no?
Well, actually, I mean, my parents are really laid back. They're super, super open. So I don't think any of us have ever been like really straight A student. Oh, actually, my youngest little brother, he's like really smart. Like plays chess on like a really high level and stuff. So that's not true. But the rest of us, we're kind of like, like
just doing your thing.
Yeah, exactly. Not like a straight A all the way kind of thing. More like focusing on doing our own thing and being passionate about what we do, I think.
Okay, and sport was like a thing, and because I know you guys are big on sport. So when you were in high school and stuff, there's this sport thing was already there. Or?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, I played basketball first. So Victor and we played basketball, and then our younger sister Anna Clara, she played basketball as well. And after that, we got a lot into skateboarding. And I was skateboarding for a lot, and our older brother is like a really good skater, and he like got sponsored and like everything. So he was like big on skateboarding. So you were part
of that culture at that time.
Exactly, yeah. And then I did a lot of skiing as well, freestyle skiing and traveling the world skiing a lot as a kid, and that was also very cool. I mean, started doing a lot of tricks and jumps and stuff, and yeah, that was part of it.
Because this thing is a whole culture, like the skateboard, the freestyle. There's the music to it. There's like it's a whole genre. If you know what I mean.
Most definitely. Yeah, I think actually that's might be where my never thought about it, but that's might be where my fascination for like the clothes becoming part of something is comes from, because we would always want to get like the coolest stuff and like the one with like the whatever the guy was wearing and kind of thing. So yeah, I think that might be where the fascination comes from.
Okay, so you graduated from high school, right?
Yeah, so graduated from high school, went into advertising school.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
So very corporate. That's a change from like free ride ski and advertising. It's like two words that don't mix usually.
Yeah, I mean, it was advertising on the creative side. So it's called creative communication. So it was a bachelor in basically art directing. You learn a lot about like what it takes to come up with an idea and how to sort of like visualize everything and communicate everything around your idea. So I kind of like started, with a fascination for graphic design and the whole world of like putting things together to communicate something. And then I got a job in the advertising industry and as an art director in New York.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like a crazy story. I applied for an internship and the guy, he was like, I think your application's like the craziest thing I've ever seen. And he flew to France to meet with me. Because I was in France at the time, and then he was like, "If you want, you can, like come work full time at my agency and everything."
So the application must have been really, really, really good. Then.
It was next level. Yeah,
you put yourself into it.
Yeah, I did like a website where I presented myself and like I did a whole video and like everything. It was like it was a different kind of like approach, but yeah, it was something different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in the creative field, and you receive application every day, I think you cannot send something that's just regular. You need to put yourself at the highest level that you can, because the people that are judging you are really, they know what they
exactly
stuff,
it's like if you just put your thing next to everyone else, how are you going to stand out? Yeah,
that's everything in life, like it means in the creative
Exactly.
Okay, so you're moving to New York then?
Moved to New York.
Which year is it? Like,
what are we at? 2012.
Okay.
Yeah. So moved to New York, 20 years old. Didn't really know. Yeah. So didn't really know what to expect. I was like, full of energy, huge ego, thinking I could do everything. And
that's the New York vibe, You go to that and you say, okay, I'm going to run the city. I'm going to conquer the world, And after the city crush you, it's like, okay, I'm going to fight back a little bit.
That's very true. Yeah.
You're like this era too.
Struggling. You're like, that guy was like crying underneath. It was like, everything's okay.
You need this energy, when you're in New York, you need to be young because it's so tough.
Oh yeah, no, it's sharp elbows all the way. And you got to push yourself and
to the limit. Yeah, definitely.
But I was very motivated and I wanted to prove myself and probably also I guess like wanted to say like, oh, I can do this. It's easy for me. Like what's next? Challenge, right?
Of course,
moved there, did advertising for 2-3 years and stuff, and the big ego kind of got to me that like in advertising there's very much this rule that the client always sort of like it has the last word.
Yeah, of course, the one's paying, like as we say in casting, the one's paying is right. Which is can be very frustrating. You need to distance yourself from that, because at the end there's too much deception coming from this.
And that's the thing. I wasn't really able to kind of distance myself from that.
Especially at that age. I'm talking because I'm 40 and like I got this whole experience, so now I can distance myself. But like the 20-year-old me would have said, "Oh, fuck you."
Exactly. That was me. So,
I guess.
So I kind of got fed up with it, and I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. That people deciding what they think is creative and what I think is creative is not right. So I was like, okay, I'll start my own advertising agency. So I started my own. Luckily, I've always been super fascinated with technology and like gadgets and like everything. So I know how to, like operate camera equipment. I know how to shoot and record and like all of those things. So
on the side, that was you were passionate about all those stuffs. Okay.
Exactly. That's basically how I supported myself through the whole thing.
Like a side business, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Just like doing graphic design, doing videos, doing After Effects, doing like all of these things. So I was super passionate about it always. Very into it. So it didn't really feel like work.
Like
It's
at
more
work,
just
yeah,
like,
that's the thing. Like if you're so passionate, whatever the hours and whatever, you won't feel it. It won't be pain because you're passionate, you're driven. So yeah,
exactly,
that makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to kind of be able to build on that and start my own agency, and started getting some clients that were more related to the fashion industry. So I've always been
like through connections, through friends, or like previous clients. How did you make the connection?
So it was a bit of a mix, like of people that I met, people that I knew from different places, and they basically just introduced me to someone. They were like, "Oh, you got to meet this guy. He's really good at this or that." And is that something you need? And I always kind of like, I never had any sort of like focus on the financial side. So every time I would just say like, no, let me do it. And then, like you see if you like it. And then the next one and the next one, like you start to build relationships so that they feel like they need
organic,
you. Yeah, exactly. So the threshold was like not as big for them to kind of like agree. And then you started working with them and it was good from there. So build on that. I started working for a brand called Hood by Air.
Oh, yay. Oh, of course. Yeah. I still got t-shirt and stuff. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
HBA.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I worked on graphic design and packaging and like a bunch of that stuff for them.
I will send you the t-shirt. Maybe you worked on them because, around like 2013, I had all this stuff. Like when Virgil and everybody was, when it was like this big Genevieve like era.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I met Virgil also there, and he introduced me to a bunch of different people, and started working with Donda, so Kanye West's creative agency, and did some work with them, did a bunch of different things like art direction again,
because Matthew Williams was around. It was the whole crew at the time, right?
Yeah, that was actually post Matthew, so there was like there's kind of like a switch always, but I think he just launched his own thing, and
because it was the Bin Trill. I remember the
exactly
Bin Trill.
It was Bin Trill era. So he was just out of that, and working on like his own things, but they were also still working, cross with Bin Trill and all of those things. So, but I was always kind of like in the background, just kind of like supplying design, graphic designs, and like coming up with ideas and stuff. And simultaneously, I've always wanted to start something with my brother, and he was studying business at the time. So.
Because your brother is younger than you.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So he was studying business in Copenhagen, and I was in New York, and we were like, okay, it might be interesting to do like something together. And it seemed like naively thinking that, a fashion brand, that should be easy. It's like,
I think you need to be that crazy naive, because if you know like how complicated it is, you will just abort. Like, let's do something else. Yeah. Let's open something else, because this is going to be the nightmare of our life.
It's kind of like why they put the shadows of on the horses. I don't know what you call those in English, but
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
To not be
en français.
And to not be disturbed by like the everything else, and the just noise, like focus.
Before we recorded, I was telling you about my music career, and that's when I discovered I was 16, and just my life just narrowed down, and I had this
laser focus.
Nothing else, like everything else, I just didn't care.
Exactly. And so I think when you go into things with that mindset and thinking like, that's going to be easy, and not knowing like everything that's behind, it's like it feels like it's more approachable, right? And so we started. Back then, it was only Skype that you could kind of like call. Now, post pandemic, there's like 9,000 different ways of communicating. Anyway, we were Skyping back and forth. He was in Copenhagen, 6 hours time difference. I was in New York, and we started formulating like the idea of like doing something together, and slowly just like built collection after collection, not really knowing so much. I shared a studio with a designer who's in New York, and he was teaching me like, oh, okay, so this is how patterns work, so this is how, you know, like draping works.
Okay,
like
because I was about to ask the question, like, okay, it's a thing to do graphic design for t-shirt, because all those Utbuyer and stuff, they were kind of elevated merch, basically, you know.
Yeah.
With all the respect from where they pushed it, you know, but doing like clothes like at the level that you're doing now, it's just a big step that people spend 1, 2, 3 years to learn how to sew, to do the patterns, like.
Most definitely, yeah. It's way more complex, but I've always.
But you didn't care. It's like, okay, I'm going
exactly.
to learn it.
It's
okay.
kind of like the same thing again. You know, it's like the big egos telling me like, that's easy.
Yeah,
you know, it's
I'm
like
gonna do it.
I can do it. Yeah. So I think from there, you know, like you just take it step by step. You're learning, and even to this day now, I'm still feel like I'm learning new things, and I don't want to just block my mind and say like, no, I know how to do it. You know, like I want to keep an open mind to.
Of course.
Whatever it might be, and feel like that I can grow and learn from whatever people come with, and not say like, no, I know best how to do this.
So you're starting to do like this first, let's say the first collection then, but it's like, so your brother, what is he doing on this part of the first collection, let's say?
So he's, I guess, like formulating everything from a business perspective.
Okay.
Like how do we set this up? And we also didn't know anything about, you know,
sourcing
like,
and stuff, I imagine.
Nothing. Yeah. Like we knew absolutely nothing. We didn't even know there was a fashion calendar or schedule or anything like selling in or like stuff like that.
Like
so,
the wholesale and everything.
Exactly. So we started to learn like, okay, how does it work? You contact the stores, you know, like, and I remember we made videos where we would send them to the stores and we'd be like presenting things, and it's like, yeah, because I could do videos, right? That's what I knew. So
I love it.
Actually, just funny remembering that now.
That's something like at the 10 years anniversary, you need to put the video back.
I don't think people want to see that, but probably, yeah, maybe it's funny to look back at. Yeah. Anyway, we sort of like took it, you know, like step by step, learning each day. Oh, that's how it works. Okay, so you sell at wholesale. Okay, and then they put it in the store, and okay, and then so there's a calendar, and then you just learn step by step, and then we shot a lookbook because I knew what that was, and we sent it to a bunch of people, and people were like,
in New York, you shot it?
Yeah, we shot it in New York, and then we sold it in Milan.
Okay. So it's like through like how did you sell it? So you did the lookbook and sold it during Milan Fashion Week. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, we sold it in a showroom. In a showroom there. Yeah, and because that's, you know, like we thought that was how it worked, and we sold it at a trade show and at a showroom as well. And like surprisingly got a bunch of really good stores hooked on that. And
which was like second season then? It was still first evolving?
It was the first season. From the very first season, we started just selling like something on an online store, because we kind of like knew, okay, you can make some clothes and then you can sell it on an online store. And that was like the very first sort of like, I guess like beta version of something. And then we created a full collection with that money. So started with, I guess, like 2,000-3,000 euros, trying to make something happen from that, and then taking that, what we made, putting it into the next collection, taking putting it into the next. So
it was men's and women's?
It was only men's back then.
Okay,
yeah.
Men's.
So the women's only came, much later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first collection pick up, I guess you're super happy about it?
Yeah, it was a bit of like a game changer, I guess. Like, okay, wait, so we could actually do this, you know? And so we continued to, I mean, I was still in New York and Victor was still in Copenhagen, but it would sort of like start to make sense to join the forces and sit together, and I was like, okay, it makes more sense for me to come back to Copenhagen, where
were the clothes made?
So back then the clothes were made, we sampled everything in New York, and then we sent it to suppliers. Like we had one in Portugal and we had one in China. Yeah. I mean, we didn't know much about manufacturing, so we just took what we could get back then.
I guess.
So that was kind of like the first step. Trying to figure out, okay, what can we make from this? And then in 2019, I moved back to Copenhagen, and we got an office in a basement. Me and Victor, and
so back face to face
on the same time zone. And laser focused, because now I quit my job in New York.
So the big leap of faith, huh?
I guess, yeah. I mean, the thing is with having your own business is kind of like you can almost always fall back on it in a way, because you know what you can create.
I understand.
And so that didn't feel like it was like very scary to like quit your job. You know, it's like, well, I can always just like do this on the side. I was still doing some like graphic design work and like just to get by.
To pay some bills.
Yeah, exactly. And Victor just finished school, and he was like, okay, makes sense to instead of like, go out and get like a corporate job, I'll like stick to this and see where it goes. And little by little, moving, learning every season, figuring out, okay, what's the next level to this? How do we go from here? And I think to this day, we're still trying to learn as much as possible and picking up where we can, and utilizing the people around us, and not saying
because you started like making a lot of connection, because when we met like I think a year and a half ago, like all my friends were telling me about you guys, so I heard a lot of good, like, hey, they're super cool, every time they come we hang out, I think you work that connection and network thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we just like to have fun, like
that's what people were saying, that you guys were fun,
Yeah,
it's true.
I mean, I think for us, it's like, it's not that serious, man. It's like, it's
so different from Paris. The Paris vibe about fashion is like everything so serious, So
exactly.
I think that people like that about you. That's okay, those guys, it's what they're doing is cool. They're cool for real, So yeah, that's a change,
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on. So you guys in the basement, moving forward. So it's collection like what, 2, 3 now?
Yeah, something like that. We're getting somewhere. And obviously, being like semi ADHD, like I can't sit still. I need to kind of like keep moving.
Oh, you ADHD? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you're dropping it. Okay.
I mean, I'm just restless. Like I gotta like progress constantly and figure out like, okay, what more can we do? So I'm thinking, okay, what about fashion shows? I think that could be fun. So started thinking, okay, well, what do we need to do a fashion show? Okay, then we need like some clothes that speak the volumes of like the creative side of this.
Because it's a big step doing a show.
It's much bigger than we thought. It's a
huge step.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it was literally Victor and I doing everything in the show, like from setting up the sculptures in the show, like doing the camera, like I was placing the camera and then running backstage, and like it was a big it was a lot of work.
But why Paris? Because Milan showed you a lot of love from the beginning. Why, and you started with men? Like the first show was men and women, or just men?
The first show was in Copenhagen.
Okay, the first show was in Copenhagen. Okay,
yeah.
Right. Okay.
So we got like a talent award in Copenhagen. So the
Copenhagen Fashion Week is amazing. They're so creative. Every brand that's doing stuff there. For me, it's like the one I really like to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it really shows that there is a lot of like creative output in Copenhagen.
Definitely. Yeah, very creative.
Yeah. No, I really, I really admire also Copenhagen Fashion Week for pushing their agenda and like really proving that Copenhagen has a lot more to offer than just like the big Copenhagen brands are maybe not as like, now we have a few also bigger Copenhagen brands that are shining some light on the creativity, but like the
like
previous
stuff.
Exactly, like those guys are doing amazing creative stuff, but like the previous generation of like the whole bestseller group and everything is maybe not what you would consider like the creative sort of like output, more like a commercial aspect. So I'm really happy that Copenhagen Fashion Week is also pushing that agenda for the rest of the world to see.
Nice. So first show Copenhagen, like what's the reaction from your local public, let's say local markets?
Very positive. I mean, in Copenhagen at that time, it's like very much pastel colors and flowers and like you know like very like which also has its place in Copenhagen, but coming in with
your proposition is radically different. No flowers, nothing black, technical.
Yeah,
but the reaction is still good. Lots of support from the Copenhagen.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I think we rose very quickly in Copenhagen. Like the second show we had there, or the third show, I think there was like 300 people outside, and like everyone just like wanting to, you know, like be a part of this like crazy thing. And we had like a big warehouse where we did the show, and it was like very like a big thing. So again, being super restless, I'm like, okay, how do we do this bigger? You know, like okay, that was it. You know, like tick, and then we see, okay, how do we move this to a bigger step, right? And then cut to COVID happen. We were like, okay, so what do we do from here, right? And this was like right before COVID, we did the first digital show where we did like 7 different angles, and we did a website, and then you as the viewer could choose your angle on the show.
Before everybody did it because of COVID, basically.
Exactly, yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because then people started looking at us for like the output of like digital shows. Like, how do you do digital shows? Oh, look at these guys. And next thing we know, we have the project manager from LVMH Group calling us and asking us like, oh, okay, so you think you could do this for like this Dior show that we're doing? And I was like,
wow.
Yeah, so that was a bit of like a shock. But it's interesting that, you know, like if you're like 2 steps ahead,
of course,
people think that you're an expert. You know, it's like, it's
but
funny.
Those houses, you know, they're huge boats, you know, so to navigate, then cannot make change that easily. It's like so many level of validation, like before you can make a turn, like you
exactly, yeah, I think
super fast. That's what's good, you know, at that level.
Exactly, the agility. I think that's like extremely important. Also, when you scale, to remember to keep that in mind. That okay,
because the creativity part, you know, it comes to that agility too, you know, like you said, okay, we're going to do this 7 camera video stuff. Like, it's just about, I think that you did it because of creativity, you know, and okay, I have this idea, I put it on the works, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it comes back to like, you know, like we weren't really motivated by anything else than just like creative output and like, and pushing the boundaries. So I think that was like what was always the important thing, where like it wasn't really, okay, how do we sell this, whatever. It was more like, okay, how can we push the boundaries within this world? So yeah, so after that we send that out, and in COVID there was either, you know, like you scale back because you're afraid of what's going to happen, or you use the time to look at yourself and you scale up. And
you decided to scale up. You don't need to finish the phrase. Okay, wow, that's again a big step forward. Wow.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, let's push it, and we started hiring more people and thinking, okay, how do we take things to the next level? And we started doing women's collections. And
so are you still involved in this? Like, because let's say like now it's your third show in Copenhagen. I think that the business is running, and like from show to show, from collection, we all know how tough it is.
Yeah.
Like to go from one collection to the other, but like it's in motion, let's say.
Yes.
So, but you're still just the two of us. So before so you're still in the creative part, but on the production part also. So you're everywhere.
Yeah, I was pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, the separation became, like very, very clear that Victor takes all the business and I take all the creative, and we sort of like consult on each other if there's something that we feel where there's an overlap or anything like that, but it's very clear like that separation. And then we sort of started to build our teams, and we got the first employees in, and we're thinking, okay, what do we need? Like, what are we spending a lot of time on here? We need a person for this. Okay, what are we doing for this? Okay, we need another person for this and for this and for this. And slowly just like learned about how you put together a team. And
that's it, because like you haven't like learned recruitment. Like, okay, you've been in the creative field, and your brother is like in the finance part, but like building a team and recruiting persons, like people, it's another field.
Definitely another field, and especially if you're, like the odd one out. In Copenhagen, we were, like a brand that hadn't really been seen before, so we didn't have any let's say competitors that we could maybe like
pick people from.
Whereas like here in Paris, like there's
people go from houses to houses, and
exactly
they get the validation stamp. Oh, you've been like 3 years into this house, so you're supposed to know how to work at
exactly. And so like there's more people to pick from, basically, and so we didn't really know how to sort of like approach it, and every time we had to hire someone, they had to move to Copenhagen. And
because you were looking internationally to recruit.
We had to, that was kind of like the only option we had.
Wow. Okay, so that's another layer of difficulty because
definitely,
because people, to convince them to change their life, because going to Copenhagen, like if you come from France, Italy, Spain, it's a all different life.
It is, yeah. But I mean, thankfully, people still love Copenhagen, and they want to.
Don't get me wrong. I only heard like good thing. I've never been, but I always like I need to come soon. But everybody loves Copenhagen, but still, it's all different from living into Barcelona, for example.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, no. And like we were lucky enough that we had obviously some pull in terms of like people believing in the brand as well. And we were like able to also sell them on that dream to become part of the development there.
I think that what's good in your brand is like this whole, like you said, dream, like people, it's just not closed, what you're showing people. And I think that's what brands are good now. When you see like Pharrell going to, it's about the storytelling, it's about the story, it's about like a journey, more than just clothes,
No, definitely. I mean, it's like a universe that we're trying to build, and people identify with that universe more than, like a certain product or something like that. And I think that it's funny that you mentioned also the dream part, like the intro to the soundtrack that we did for the show. I wanted to kind of like reflect that idea of like having a dream that you can't explain. And there's this viral clip with a kid on YouTube where he says like, have you ever had a dream where you were
I know this kid. And
he can't explain it, and then he says like, and you could do anything. And then I started the whole soundtrack with that soundbite to kind of like emphasize this idea that like it might be a dream that you have, and you might not be able to explain it, but you're trying to
articulate
that this, like what you're formulating now, it's all just like one big dream, right? So it's funny that you just mentioned that, but Yeah.
So you're selling the drink to get people all over Europe to come to Copenhagen to work for you. Okay.
Yes, pretty much. We're selling dreams.
So you're launching the women's wear. So like the idea was to like get something that you do for men's and trying to adapt it to women. So it was like, okay, I'm going to do something that's going to be totally different from
I think
what we do for men's.
It's the thing is like back then there was more of like I guess like a stereotypical approach to creating garments for men and women.
Yes.
And the limitations within what people would want to buy for men's was limited, and it was like hoodies, t-shirts, pair of straight pants. And now it's you know, like it's opening up much more, and thank God for that. So there's like more options.
Yeah, the collection was just tiny compared to the women's collection.
Yeah, exactly. There's just like not that many options, you know, like how many different ways can you make a t-shirt for men's, you know? And then as soon as you go into women's wear, there was like, okay, you can make tops, you can make like short, long, you can make like dresses, you can make... There's so many more like ways to kind of like express the clothes, and being the restless ego that I was like, okay, I think I could do that. And then just like tried to do some different things, and taking bits and pieces, inspiration from the men's collection, and applying it to the women's wear, but adding also, I guess, like a bit more of like an elegant flair and touch to it, because that was, I guess, like easier to translate with the categories that you can expand to.
There's lots of sexiness also. Sorry for interrupting, but like that was coming in mind when I see like your last collections. Like there's something like strong and sexy at the same time.
Yeah. I feel like it's a nice couple, the men's and the women's. I feel like from my perspective, they're very strong, both of them, and like they look like a very like powerful couple.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's kind of like the intention. I think might be a bit misconceived that, you know, like we're trying to like sexify a little bit the women's, but we also want to show that like this is also possible for this to feel like powerful, and not just like to look at it as like a sexified object, right?
Definitely.
And I think ideally we would also want to put like a lot of the women's wear on the guys as well, to kind of like show that this is also something that can look equally as powerful. And we did like a full genderless collection that we also sell with the rest of the collection, where there's tops that can be worn by men and women that are tight and cropped, and there's jackets and like all of these things that are genderless, and we want to push that agenda even more. So the idea being that there shouldn't really be that much of a separation between the two, but being in the industry that we're in, you're just, you know, like you're selling to a buyer that's selling to an audience, and the audience is still, you know, like
I know,
maybe 2-3 years behind the actual fashion industry. So if you want to be able to do this next season, you also got to sometimes play to the rules of like the audience.
Okay, so you're launching the women's wear. So the first time you're showing women's is in Copenhagen, or it's the first time you're coming to Paris?
That is also, I mean, we showed it on the runway, the women's, which was more just showpieces, so we didn't have a full collection. And I think the first full women's collection that we did was Autumn Winter 20. And we showed that in showroom in Paris, and then we showed it on the schedule as digital, because that was during COVID.
Okay, so COVID ends and you put yourself to a new thing.
So COVID ends. Obviously, physical shows is now a thing, and
so you're coming.
And Paris is open.
Paris, of course, because that's where it's at.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, we were super fortunate. I was able to text Virgil back then, saying like, hey, we
rest in peace.
Yeah, exactly. That we were hoping to apply to Fashion Week, and if he somehow knew the process or something like that. And he was like, don't say anything else, just let me work on it. And he forwarded our application and everything, and he was a big supporter of the brand and everything.
The best.
No, absolutely. I mean, the way that he was able to like make people flourish and feel like make people feel appreciated was beyond anything else. Yeah.
True. Yeah, that's true. That was a big loss.
Emotional. Yeah.
Yeah. So you made the connection to the real calendar. So as a show or as a presentation? So because usually they start with giving you a presentation. Yeah, exactly. So they gave us a presentation, but then they changed it to a show slot. Cool. So yeah, I still like can't really figure out how the whole difference works, but I think it's like I mean there's obviously steps and rules that apply to these processes, and you know, like we respect and understand that for sure. But we were lucky enough to be on the official schedule, and we were like, okay, so what do we do from here? We gotta find a venue, we gotta find, you know, like people to show the collection to, and like we're still a small team, you know, like 10 people working behind the scenes, putting together a collection. Also, you know, like so much work. Yeah, there's a lot more than people think, and especially if you know, like we're from Copenhagen, so we don't have a studio here or anything. So we have to figure out, okay, how do we, you know, work on the whole collection here? How do we do the whole fitting process, the casting, and like everything around it? And that was a lot to figure out again, but it was energizing as well to get new challenges, right? And to put yourself up to trying to do what's next in the big steps. Wow. But just to go back to like the garments and stuff, I imagine that in the meantime you're working on sourcing and stuff also. Yeah. So that was actually a big part of COVID. So looking internally, seeing how can we sort of like improve on the products, and how can we make sure that what we're delivering is also the story that we want to tell. Yeah, because there's quality, like what we see, like on your products. I only seen you when we met before, like on you, and during the shows, there's like this quality look to it, you know. So I imagine that working on finding the right material must have taken some time too, no? Absolutely. Yeah, it's very much a process. We were lucky enough to be invited to China for, it was right before COVID, where we did an exhibition there and an installation and everything. And then we also took the chance to meet with a bunch of suppliers and people who could help us like develop the products that we have in mind, because a lot of the technical stuff, it comes from China. They're actually more advanced in China than in a lot of other places. I visited a lot of like the top. I used to be a consultant for a brand, and their partner were in China, and they had basically like off of the Nike factories in Asia, and I visited like a couple of factories for garments, and it's like chirurgical. Like this is crazy, like in the middle of nowhere, this like high-end technological hub to do garments. It's crazy. If you haven't seen it, you wouldn't believe it. You know? It's extremely inspiring. Like you go there and you can like, you know, you can get like an appreciation on a whole other level, and like you can see so much more than if you're just like looking at references or looking at a picture of something, you know. It's like it's much more because inspiring. For a long time, you know, in Europe we had like this made in China, you know, it's like it means it's cheap, but absolutely there's still cheap stuff, of course, you know, the shine and all this bullshit. But like for high-end stuff, they have, I'm sure, one of the best factories in the world for sure.
Absolutely. And you know, like when you say like, oh, China as one thing, it's also like
yeah,
a bit,
of course, that's that's almost racist.
It's like yeah, it's at least just like stereotypical.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
we're talking about billions of people here. It's
basically,
like it's like, you know, they have suburbs that are bigger than Scandinavia. I mean, it's like,
it's funny. I'm going to China in 2 weeks to be like a judge on like this modeling. Yeah. And it's going to be on national TV. So I was telling my mom, oh, it's going to be like 100 million people or 200 million. Where she was like, you say, yeah, okay, it's a lot, but compared to the, you know, almost 2 billion is nothing, you know?
No, it's like it's out of this world. I mean, I'm sure you've been before as well. And
yeah, I love China. I've been like lots of times. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been that one time, and I've been to a lot of other places in Asia, but I think there's not that much that compares to the grandiosity of like things in China. Like we went to Shenzhen, which is like insane, like mind blowing how like that city has advanced over the past like 20 years.
They have the new train who goes to Hong Kong in like a couple of minutes now. It's crazy. Yeah,
it's crazy. So I mean, you know, like we were blown away by that whole thing, and luckily enough we met some suppliers that could really help us, you know, like advance in the right places, and when we were doing, you know, like technical garments and stuff, that make sure that we can live up to that
the expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially like you were saying, coming from like the frisky and stuff, like all those, like now everybody is talking Arc'teryx and all that stuff. Like everybody likes, you know, technical garments, but what's okay, they're cool. People made them cool, but they're like, you can wear them and they're never going to break, you know? So if you do like something, oh, it looks like a technical garment, but like I'm going to wear it twice and it's going to break, like people are going to say, okay, this is not what I'm expecting in terms of quality, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, people that have high expectation on the technical, you know, garments.
Yeah, that and tailoring, I think is...
Yeah, definitely.
Those are two, like, where you have very high expectations. I think there's not that many that expect something from, like, hoodies and T-shirts and, like... Denim maybe a little bit,
just like the denim, you know, the people that live for the denim, that don't wash the denim, that buy the Japanese,
put it in the freezer and stuff.
I know.
No, yeah, definitely there's a you know, like a group of people that has a certain, you know, like level of respect.
Denim fans,
definitely
everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going into the first show in Paris. What's the reaction, like how you handle it, like, because you must have been like kind of like a kid a little bit, because I mean, no disrespect to Copenhagen Fashion Week, but Paris Fashion Week after COVID, it was like everybody was there, you know, lots of expectation. Back to the physical shows, you know, it's just not going back to we changed city, like okay, everybody's back there, like lots of pressure, I guess.
This is like next level. Like it's like not comparable to Copenhagen Fashion Week, or like no disrespect or anything whatsoever, but like there's nothing like Paris Fashion Week. Like it's next level, the shows and the efforts and like everything that's put into it, and like you mentioned before, the seriousness about everything is like next level. They're like very serious about things. And
going back to Virgil, I think like it's the reason why, you know, so many American brands, because when I was starting in the fashion industry, everybody wanted to show in New York. You know, New York is the place of the big brands, European, like everybody wanted to, like now, it's not because I'm from France, you know, it's like just the reality. Everybody wants to show in Paris. The American brands, some Italian brands, you know, everybody wants, it's the center of fashion at the moment. I don't know how long it's going to last, but like showing there, it's a statement, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's also just like, to be next to, you know, like Christian Dior, Saint Laurent, like Louis Vuitton, Chanel, like those
the
are
expectation
on
from the crowd.
Exactly. And they're on the same schedule that you're on. You know, like the people that are at your show, they're actually going to that show next. You know, it's like that's
true.
that's
I
the
never
thing.
saw it like this.
You know,
True.
like so that's what you're compared to. And I mean, that's amazing. For me, it's like extremely motivating and extremely, I love to be a little fish in a big pond, more than being a big fish in a small pond, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
definitely.
so for me, it's just like super motivating and taking things to that next level. And I feel like the response from the people here in Paris has been absolutely mind blowing. Like we did not expect there to be such a following here, and we're just like the response that we've gotten is just like tremendous. Like from the supporters of the brand and the people and. Yeah, it's really we're extremely humbled.
Like warm your hearts, because when you put so much energy, time, and everything to it, and you're lucky enough to have the good response from the supporters, I think.
No, I mean, you have no idea. It's like literally things I like that I go over in my head, like that. If people say, "Oh, I have this piece like from your first collection or like from this collection," I'm like,
wow,
really? you
I
like
remember
that?
when I was designing it.
Exactly. And it's like it's one thing to, you know, like have that in your own city, you know, in Copenhagen. It's like, you know, they're like, they probably know someone that you know, and it feels like a bit like, oh yeah, okay, you know, like
he's a friend of a friend. That's
yeah,
why.
exactly. It's like you don't really get the same appreciation as like if somebody random in like Paris is coming up to you and saying like, oh yo, you're the guy, and like, oh yeah,
that's cool. So I guess like it motivated you to go, okay, well, next season we're gonna go higher. We're gonna put someone on fire on the show.
Yeah. I mean, when I first went, or like back when I was working with Kanye, we went here to do a show at the Louis Vuitton Foundation with like the big 7 screens and everything, and I went
was
to
dancing in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah. And back then I went to Palais de Tokyo to see like some exhibitions and stuff, and I was like, this is where the Rick Owens show is. And I was like, oh wow, that's this basement. And I was like, wow, if I could just like one day get a chance to show my brand here, like, cause that's back when I was in New York and thinking like, okay, what could it be? So the first show that we did was at Palais de Tokyo. So that was like really like, again, back to this idea of the dream, right? It's like, it's a dream. You can't explain it, but you're somehow like, by having that dream constantly, you're like manifesting it or like cementing it in your subconscious to like, to push that and to pull that off, right? So we did the first show at Palais de Tokyo.
So you made the dream come true.
I guess, yeah. Or at least that dream, but it's all part of like a bigger dream that, you know, like, yeah. But yeah, so we were like, okay, what can we do next? What's the next step? And then always had this like really big idea of like taking over an entire building. So that's what we did last season, where we took over an entire building in the center of Paris, where the first floor was the backstage, the second floor was the show, the third floor we did a huge dinner for 150 people, and right after the show, and then on the fourth floor we had an after party.
I heard. I didn't hear about the dinner, but I heard about the after party.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's good. I hope you heard good things.
Yeah. A lot of fun from what I heard.
Yeah. No, they're always fun, the after parties. Yeah.
Okay, and so the next move is last show that happened yesterday, 2 days ago.
2 days ago, yeah.
2 days ago, yeah.
Yeah. Can you see it on my eye?
That's Fashion Week, baby. That's how it is.
Most definitely, yeah.
And so, yeah, when I saw the show and I was looking at the tags, so everybody, like, you basically put someone on fire in the middle of the show in Paris. And I know it's complicated. I think that, like, with a fireman and everything. I don't know how you pull that off, but I know it's complicated.
Yeah.
It reminds me, like, once I was with Virgil and he wanted to make, well, like, I think it was the first or the second show. of Off-White. And we went to this building who's now Hôtel Arts et Métiers. But it was in construction. And he wanted to do the show in the construction site.
Okay.
But all the guys from the security, all your... everybody's attending to wear
with the hard hat.
So, no, forget about it.
He could have made that a look. I feel like he could have pulled that off,
But yeah, I know like in terms of legislation, like that must have been something too.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, they're being part of the Fashion Week, the official schedule, obviously means that you have to do everything
by the book.
You have to do everything right. You have to get all the papers. You have to get all the insurances. You have to get all the models need to have the right paperwork and like everything. I bet you know this as well. And so there's a lot of like things to live up to. And with that obviously comes a bunch of security as well. So you have to pick a venue that can supply this and is able to kind of like stand with those predicaments that you need. So
but you managed to do it. So what was the idea about this like Burning Man? Like, is it a creative thing or is it just happening? Or?
To be honest, like it's not, it's like we're having fun, like we're doing something crazy, like we're taking things to the next level. Always pushing, like how would this do? Like, what about this? Like that could be cool. That could be crazy. Like that could be a thing.
To me, it was kind of a response of what Copenhagen did with Bella Hadid. They had this thing that everybody talked about. It was really well made, and like the reaction to the people, like it was everywhere on I was opening Instagram, like all the stories were this. Like even people that were not here, they were posting in their story. Like I was just in this crazy thing,
It was crazy. I mean, and it's a bit weird.
The viral moment from the first, I don't know if there will be more because we're just at the beginning, but like it was a really big viral moment,
Well, thank you for sure. I think it wasn't really like planned in a way where it's like,
that's when it works.
We're, like we want to do this thing. Like, to be honest and like completely transparent about everything, we did last season. We did an intervention in the middle where we had nuns come out in reflective outfits, and they were singing a song like halfway through the show. And this bought us 3 minutes in the backstage to change all the models into their second look.
Wow, that's fucking smart. Okay. So, it's always finding solution when you cannot have the money to have like twice the models. Huh?
Exactly. So
you're being creative. You have to.
We're self-funded. Like we're not like someone who can just say like, hey, the investor,
40 models, no problem.
Exactly.
Yeah,
we need more and like send some more cash, right? It's like that's not how it works. Like we gotta like figure out creative ways to make things work, and that's what we did last season. And this season we had 35 looks, and we have like budget for like 15, 17 models maybe, and that's like what we have to work with.
Wow, that's smart.
And we have quite a complicated look. It needs to be styled the right way. I'm going over each look that's styled, so I need to make sure. Okay,
you mean backstage before they go on the runway?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So everything needs to happen,
because usually designers, they look at the big screen, like when they go,
Yeah. No, I like to be involved in every step of the way. I mean, we have an amazing team that also pulls everything off, and we're trying as much as possible to be super organized and structured in everything. So we obviously paired everything together to work in the most efficient way, and everything was like set so it could happen with that switch. But we need to buy some time. And we were thinking, okay, how do we buy some time? And we got to do something that will make people, like reappear. And it was also kind of that for me. It's like, coming from advertising, like I know that people have a short attention span. Like,
and it's worse now than 10 years ago.
It's way worse.
Yeah, thinner and thinner every year.
Exactly.
It's the TikTok, thing, like
exactly
6-second max.
You're like, okay, the first like 5 seconds of the show, or like 5 seconds is not that much, but like maybe like the first minute or 2 minutes of the show, you have the music that's going boom, boom, and like models are coming out. Everything's like super interesting. So people are out with their phones and everything, but then slowly decreases from there, and they're like putting down their phone. It's like, oh, okay, it's another look. Oh, okay, it's another look. So you kind of need like, okay, some kind of
momentums.
Like, exactly, like a palate cleanser, like a refresher, and I did that last season where we did nuns that would come out and sing this like very, like delicate song. It was like very, like almost like heavenly kind of moment, and the lights went down. It was only these like reflective garments that were standing on the runway, and then immediately after we fired like hardcore techno, and all the hard looks like came out. So it was like boom, you were like complete like switch, right? And we wanted to do something similar. So like how do we get people to be like, whoa, okay, again, how about like something where like you put someone on fire, and it's like, okay, we can do like a model that's walking on fire. That'll be cool. And we didn't expect it to be like like, oh, this is gonna be like that moment. Like maybe some people will say like, wow, okay, that's kind of cool, and they walk out, and then the second
part of the show,
boom, we restart, and people are like, shit, there's more, and then they get their phones out again, and then you see the whole thing again. And again, we're just having fun, it's like it's about that for us. It's like we want to show something really cool, and we want to do it in an interesting and fun way.
Wow, that's a success on this part. Congrats,
thank you.
Honestly.
Thank you.
I just want to ask you a couple of questions, because from the beginning you told us that you were from 5 kids, 4 brother. Like working with your brother, I think it can be a lot of strength, but like how do you manage? Because sometimes we all have family relatives that we love, but working with them on like a daily basis, like how's the flow between you guys?
Honestly, it's like amazing. It's like beyond amazing. And people always ask me this question, or ask us this question, like, how do you make it? Because like I have a sister and blah blah blah, like, and then they ask this question, but we've never had any issues with that. Obviously we fight and we discuss, but
of course, like everybody, we
respect each other so much that like we know our strengths, and we know how to kind of like push each other to that next level, and I think that's like how you make this dream teamwork work.
So you double the power.
Exactly. Yeah. 1 + 1 = 3. That's how it is for us.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, the synergy is really good. We know our strengths, and we know our weaknesses, so we know where we can sort of like push and pull, and what we need to do. And I think for me, it's also, like such a powerful thing, not ever having to second guess your like your partner, and think about their intentions, or like,
no trust issues.
No trust issues, like you never know. And like that, we've never had that issue. I mean, we've been, like, mean to each other. We've been, like not talking for like 2-3 days, and it happens.
It's relationship.
Like, that's relationship,
that's
and
family relationships.
Exactly. And we learn, we grow from that. Like we take that, we see, okay, but what is it that like made us like go here, and we talk about it, because we know that like we're gonna stick in this. It's like it's not an option to like ever quit. So
I guess.
And I think it's also, like a lot of people also ask me like, oh, why, like in the end, like when you're going out, like because I'm the designer and like the creative director and everything, and that's like the usual way that you go out, and like everyone says like, okay, Julius, get ready to go out, and like I'm always like, okay, I'll bring Victor out with me, because we also want to show that it's like a joint effort.
For me, it's a duo. For me, I didn't know how you guys were doing, but to me, it's really a duo, you guys.
Absolutely.
But why the name? Why Heliot Emil? Why?
Heliot Emil is the name of our great grandfather. So that's also, again, like, we're brothers. We didn't want to like take any of our names, so we wanted to pay an homage to the family, and we decided to take our great grandfather's name.
Okay, so you're big on family.
I guess, yeah, without even sort of like realizing it. But yeah,
DNA.
Yeah.
Wow, that was big. Anything else that you're planning that you can talk? Anything what can we wish you?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot of category expansion right now. We're trying to broaden the universe by doing interesting things. So
Collabs.
We're doing collabs. We're doing a whole objects collection.
Nice.
So we're doing.
I can definitely see that with you. Because all the I don't know how you say it in English.
The hardware.
The hardware stuff that attached to the garments. There's definitely like something linked to objects.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're doing a bunch of that. Just now on Friday. On Saturday and Sunday we're doing collaboration pop-up with a Japanese coffee brand.
Cool.
And we're gonna do, like, we have a whole set of different coffee objects, so like cups and spoons and sugar and like what do you call it, like a pitcher for milk and like everything. So kind of like expanding into different ideas and not just like now we did clothes. Okay, what's next? Yeah.
Oh, Julius, that was a great episode. Thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing everything. It was a real pleasure. And thanks again for taking the time during Fashion Week. I know the busy schedule that you have.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.